Hi, friends. I wanted to take a moment to share with you a little bit about my morning. I've been working on my book every morning for 2 hours, trying to get up at 5:30. This morning wasn't so successful. Only a half-hour delay, though. Only a half-hour bit of snoozing. So I've been working on my book, and I finally feel like it's getting close, which is a really exciting feeling and one I'm kind of protecting, keeping close to my heart. I remember when I felt this way before, and I chatted with, this was before I was working with my editor, so I felt really good about it. I was like, yes, I've got it down. I sent it to her, and she got back to me, and she said, this seems like a very early draft. At the time, it was heartbreaking to hear that because I felt like, yes, this is it. I'm going to be publishing in a couple months. I'll just get some copy editing, make sure all the punctuation is correct. And she basically said, you've got a lot of work to do. And even though it was really hard to hear, it was the best piece of feedback that I got on my manuscript because I've grown so much. That was January 2015. 2 years ago, and in that time I've grown so much as a writer. I think every writer, probably all creatives, there's like a balance of wanting it to be the best that it can be and finally letting it go. So part of me wants this manuscript to be the best that it can be, and part of me has to let it go, realizing that I can only write the best manuscript that I can write right now. And there gets to be a point where it's more important for it to be out in the world than sitting with me, because I'll continue evolving as a writer. And in 5 years' time, I maybe would have written a very different book. And it could have been a lot better, but it could have been better in ways that maybe don't really matter as compared to the timing. So I'm getting really excited because the book is feeling close. I'll send it to my editor and then we'll see what she says. Maybe she'll tell me that it's not close at all. So that's why I kind of keep this guarded towards my heart. But I just wanted to share a little bit my thrill at the mystery of creativity. I really love the idea that I first heard from Elizabeth Gilbert when she was giving her TED Talk, one of her first TED Talks, about how back in ancient Greek, Roman days, genius was considered a creative entity that visited humans. It was almost like an extraterrestrial, external source of inspiration. So if somebody were complimenting somebody else's sculpture, they wouldn't actually be complimenting that person. They would, in effect, be complimenting that energy, that source of creativity. And I love magic, mystery, unique things like that, kind of believing in things that are hard to prove, even though it gives my scientific brain a whirl. And I love this idea of thinking of creativity in this way. But the more striking component is that as I've been working on my book, I have those experiences of feeling like when I go back and read something, I don't really know who wrote that. That's not really how my voice sounds. And it sounds a lot better than, the first 20 attempts. And whether it's kind of this inspiration or not, it's not the point. That doesn't matter. But one thing that can't be underscored enough is the power of editing. I feel like finally now, I don't even know how many times I've gone through my book, you guys. It's 50 times. I really don't know. I should go back and count all my drafts. But each time, even though it feels like being lost in the woods a lot of the time, things start to reveal, and they only reveal when they're meant to, which is infuriating and frustrating and, at times discouraging. But when things finally start looking like they're coming together and you're kind of pulling at just the remaining threads, in practicality, this looks like editing word by word, looking at that one word and feeling like, you know what, there's a better way to say that, to convey that, or removing that one word and suddenly another word is allowed to shine through and the sentence has kind of a whole different feel to it. It's a very sentient experience. It's very visceral, and I've never really known a creative process like it. I've never spent so much time doing one project as I have working on my book, even though plenty of other projects. And I am loving that aspect of kind of teasing out now these finer details and I'm getting to the point where the story is speaking for itself and the writer has fallen away. even for me to read it. And I think that that's a sign of a good book. You're not aware of who's written this, what their perspective is. You are so pulled into the story that you don't even register the words, right? It's like the meaning is hitting you on a different level, and the words are just, they just sort of disappear, and instead you're feeling it. And I feel like I'm finally getting to that place. Having said that, who knows how much more time it's going to take. I'm only on this edit on page 20 of about 100. So there's a ways to go. I'm sure I'll come across some places where I feel like I've taken 5 steps backwards, and my frustration will return. But I just wanted to share some of my delight at this process, my delight in having the opportunity to share this story, and feeling called to and feeling led in this journey. And I think that that's one aspect of the importance of removing yourself, your ego, from the experience of being a creative. Whether or not you're going to prescribe to it's some external being or source or energy, it doesn't matter. But the more you can pull yourself and your ego out of the experience, the more the creativity will flow through you uninhibited. And there's actually a lot of neuroscience around this in the field called flow, where your dorsolateral prefrontal cortex shuts down when you're in the flow. You forget time, you forget bodily functions, you don't need to go to the bathroom mysteriously. And that dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, that's your inner critic. That's your voice that says, you can't do this, and you're stupid, and who do you think you are? Which, unsurprisingly, inhibits the creative process. So when you're in this state of flow, it is coming from a different place because your brain is functioning differently than it does in normal day life, which is an amazing feeling. And so that's where the ego doesn't exist. You're just going with it, going with the flow, if you will. And for me, it's been really remarkable to see what comes out of that experience. I'll share more about flow down the line. I've done quite a bit of research on it and have some tips if you're wondering, how do I get more of that? I'll touch back to that place. But in the meantime, for you creatives out there, don't take it personally. Give yourself over to the process and really savor and delight in this experience, because it's a long journey. So it helps to kind of truncate it, segment it into little celebrations. So thank you for letting me celebrate with you.